Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Armada Universe Decepticon Starscream. So as we always do, let's go ahead and bring that box in and take a look at those details. Right up top you've got Transformers Legacy. There's your big gaping hole. There's your artwork looking good. Armada Universe Starscream, Transformers, he's a Voyager-class. Over here you've got some nice artwork which we've seen in previous reviews. Back here you've got your product shots. He converts in 18 steps. And you've got that QR code if you want to scan it. You have parents. You have sad baby. The baby's sad because, well, Starscream is evil. And over here you got some nice artwork. There's his head. There's his body. And down low you have that information if you care to read it. So that is it for the box. Let's go ahead and take a look at Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Voyager-class Armada Universe Decepticon Starscream. So as we always do, let's go ahead and bring that packaging in first. There up at the top you have Legacy. There's your big gaping hole. There's some artwork on the front showing him in his jet mode. He is Starscream. Transformers Legacy. He is a Voyager-class Transformers. You have artwork on the side, which we've seen in previous reviews. Back here you have your product shots. He converts in 18 steps. Looking good there. There's your QR code if you want to scan it. And there you have parents. And there you have the sad baby. Baby sad because, well, it's Starscream. Over here, you've got that nice artwork of his head. Glowing eyes are not included. And down here you've got that full body shot. And down low you have this information if you care to read it. So that is it for the packaging. Let's go ahead and jump into that next segment and take a look at everything that came inside that box. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that box, and we'll start over here with your little sheet of warnings, yay. And then you have your instruction booklet, yay. And that leaves you with the two items that we see here. I will tell you, I am by no means an expert when it comes to the Transformers Armada universe. That was just kind of a part of the Transformers universe that I missed. So I'm not going to profess to be an expert here. I'm just going to simply present the facts and the figures to you, and we'll go from there. But let's go ahead and take a look at that first accessory. So this is a sword of some type. Those of you who know, you know, and hopefully it looks good to you. But yeah, this is just gray molded plastic. Sculpt work looks fairly decent on it. Looks like you've got a few spots right there, a few pegs where you can plug it in and do some stuff. You've got a peg down here. And then he's kind of hollow in the back, but you do have this nice hook on the end to really tear into people or bots and do what you want to do with it. And then he does come with a sword. So again, I don't know the history behind the sword. I don't know if it has a special name or anything like that, so apologies if it does. But there you go. I will tell you that it is different on each side. Looks like by design. So here is the other side as well, and you can see how that sculpt work is a little bit different there. Now this is meant to be the bottom or the hidden side, as you can tell by the hollow areas from the molding process. So this one is definitely the prettier side, but there is different sculpt work over here as well. And then you've just got that handle down here and a couple of pegs to do with what you will. All right. So that leaves us with just Mr. Starscream. So let's go ahead and bring him in and take a look at his details. Here he is, the bot we've all been waiting to see. This is Armada Universe Starscream. So let's go ahead and bring him in and take a look at those details. We're going to start right up here with that Starscream face. I say Starscream face, but it needs a little bit of a smirk on there. He just seems a little too serious there. So it's all well and good, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a smirk. And the eye color choice is interesting with those orange yellow eyes. I think that's kind of a nice offset. Up here, I just want to show you the top. We'll see this all in plain mode as well, but he does some sculpt work up here, makes it look kind of interesting. And then coming on down to that chest, you've got some nice sculpt work there, and you've got those gold accents and then the black and then some sculpt work up under here. And then you have that big old blue cockpit just dangling down the front. And then coming down to those legs. Pretty good looking overall. Now he does have some hollow areas, so let's go ahead and talk about that. He's got hollows there. And then he has hollows in the backs of his legs that we'll get to, but at least they had some panels back here, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But he does have some kneecaps that you definitely do not want to get kneed by. And not a whole lot going on down here as far as details. I mean, there's no paint down here unless you want to count these knees. But you've got some sculpt work on the inside of those legs. And then some sculpt work right there, which is kind of neat. And then right over here on the side as well. All right, so coming up the side of the bot. Take a look at those feet. Make our way up. Not a lot to talk about. He's relatively solid, which is nice. And then take a look up under the arms. Everything filled in pretty nicely there. So no major complaints as far as the hollowness goes in the arms. And then you have those shoulders right there. Look pretty good. A little bit of paint right there. Tops of the arms. And then you've got those fists. And look up underneath. So there's your panel where the fists fold in. And then over here on the side, you've got a port that you can use for blast effects or weapons or whatever you feel like using. And then he does have his little wings back there, which are very cool. So here he is from the side. If I can get him to stand up. Bend your knees naturally, sir. So there he is from the side. Not really a whole lot going on as far as backpack. He compacts up pretty well. This is definitely not my favorite Starscream sculpt, but as far as the overall backpack size and everything, I think they did a pretty good job here. And here he is from the back before we get into the rest of it. So you can see where they saved a little bit of money back here with those wings, and then right down here at the bottoms with those legs. But everything else comes together pretty well. So it's certainly not the worst thing that I've ever seen by any means. But let's bring him in, take a look at those details real quick. I do like the gold that's sitting in there. And then good details on these. You got some nice sculpt work going on there. We'll see these again in plain mode as well, as we will this. And then coming around to the back, here are those panels that I was talking about. These panels are used in transformation, but they also are a nice filler for that hollow area right there. But everything else, not really much to write home about as far as the details go with this figure. So let's go ahead. Once I get him set up, there we go. So he looks pretty good. He's not my favorite, but he does look pretty good. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll jump into the articulation. And we'll go ahead and start right up here at the top with his noggin. So you've got that head. It's sitting on a ball joint that's it's a little offset. It's a little further back on the back of the neck. So his head motions are a little different, but you can get some way up right there. You can get a wee bit down right there. You can get ever so slightest of a tilt, and then you can go all the way around if you want to. And then before we go to the shoulders, let's go ahead and talk about everything else going on back here. So you can angle these wings however you want. You can bring them back that far. You can bring them forward that far. And you can rotate them pretty much any angle that you want to see. So kind of like cat ears here, you can give him different moods. You know, if you want him looking a little sleek, you know, or if you want him looking broad, you can do that kind of stuff. So really up to you what you want to do. And then this goes more toward accessories, but it is a point of articulation. So you could bring these up if you want. You could swing these forward if you want. So you have all kinds of things that you can do there as far as that's concerned. So we'll just keep that tucked away for now. Coming on down to those shoulders. So your shoulders are typically flush like that. You can bring them up that far, and then you can bring them around. Just be careful of running into stuff. And then you do have a point of rotation right there. And you can see, so, well, maybe it's coming across, but this looks and acts kind of loose. It's not really detrimental. It's just got some slop in it. So you can see that's very, very soft ratchets right there. So they'll hold, but they've just got slop in them. So not complaining, just something to note. I know when I first opened him and I started messing with him, I'm like, hey, why is his arm loose? But I realized it's just slop in those ratchets. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, you can go all the way around right there. You can get a nice deep elbow bend right there. And then you don't really have anything at the wrists unless you open that panel up, and then you can swing that hand down, but there's no rotation or anything here. So coming on down to the waist, you do have waist rotation, but as you may expect, there's a lot of interference going on here. So let's kind of see it from the side. So you do get waist rotation of a few degrees before, you know, the nose of his plane starts running into his legs. So just keep that in mind, but you do have some rotation right there. And then as far as the legs themselves go, this is fun. This is nice. You get a Starscream, Van Damme, and beyond. So definitely all kinds of kick available to you right there. And then as far as kicks, front kick goes, you can front kick that far. You can back kick that far. So he's definitely done his yoga. He's good as far as flexibility goes in those legs. And then you do have thigh rotation. You go all the way around here, but I would warn you to be careful. So there's nothing that's locking these in. So if the leg falls off, don't be surprised. This leg, the right leg, has a tendency to do it more than the left leg does on my copy. So yeah, if the legs fall off, just push them back on. There's just nothing stopping that joint from coming apart. All right, as far as knees go, you're going to get over 90 degrees on those knees. And then down here at the feet, you get an okay range. I mean, you can come down that far, you can come up that far, you can come in that far, and then you can adjust that heel. And the heel will hold the weight, so you know you can certainly get away with something like that. If I turn it where you can see it, so something like that, you know, he's light enough that that heel's going to hold that weight for you. So if you need that extra support, that heel's got it for you. All right, so that covers the articulation. So what we'll do now is we'll bring his accessories in, we'll throw some blast effects on him, and show you some of the stuff that you can do with him in his bot mode. Here he is in that fully accessorized, all blast effects used glory. And yeah, you can do quite a bit with this guy. He's got blast effect ports all over the place. He's holding his swords. He has his cannons up here facing forward or up in this circumstance, just simply because of the little flight stand that I'm using. It's not the best thing ever, so I'm kind of limited in my angle. But you kind of get the idea here. I mean, he's just got blast effect ports everywhere, and limited only by your imagination, really, as far as what you can do with this guy. But yeah, load him up, have a good time. You can do all kinds of stuff with him. I'm not really too impressed with the accessories that he comes with overall. There's just not a whole lot you can do with them other than he holds them like swords, and they don't really have blast effect compatibility or anything like that. So they're a little bit disappointing, but you can still have a really good time with this figure. So now that we've taken a look at him like this, let's go ahead and get into that transformation and turn him into his jet mode. Let's go ahead and get Starscream transformed into his jet mode. And the way I do it, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to tuck these hands away. You're going to need to do it eventually, so I just go ahead and do it now. So you're just going to open that panel up, flip those fists in, and then you've got those put away. Do the same thing over here. Lift that panel, close those fists, close the panel up, and now they're put away. I'm going to do the same thing with the feet just to get those out of the way. So you've got these heel spurs right here. You're just going to flip those heel spurs in, and then you're going to close the foot up just like that. So same thing right here, heel spur, and then close that foot up just like that. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, we'll come up here to the wings. So you're going to want to approximate. They're going to move on you, so don't get too worried about it. But this forms one of the edges of your wings here, so you're just going to take the wing and flip that up and around like that, and do the same thing over here. So you've got that approximation. Like I say, these are going to move on you a little bit just as you collapse these arms in, but this gets you in the right vicinity. All right, now we're going to take this cockpit and we're going to lift this cockpit up. It's just sitting on a tab right here, so we're just going to lift that cockpit up, and then it's going to soft snap into place, and then you just flip these little winglets out right there, so you should have something that looks like that. And see, this has already shifted on me a little bit just in moving those arms. So like I say, don't sweat it too much on these. This just kind of gets them in the right spot. All right, so now that we are here, come around here to the back and lift this assembly up. That's going to form the back of the plane. That now allows you access to move this entire waist assembly up. So you have kind of sort of a tab and kind of sort of a slot that kind of sort of hold everything together. You bring it up and you push it in, and then you kind of sort of have that. So it's not the most secure thing. It doesn't really lock per se, but it gets you there. All right, so now coming to the backs of those legs, you have these panels right here. You're going to open those panels up, and they're not symmetrical, so they open the same direction. And the reason being is you're going to need to fold these legs in on themselves. So you're going to take those legs, you're going to rotate them around so your ailerons, I'm going to make the sound, the fins. So the fins are sticking to the inside, and then you're going to rotate these in, and they're just going to collapse in on themselves right there. So just bring those in, get those arms out of the way, and then do something along those lines. And now we're going to do the same thing over here on this side. Problem is, this little flap right here is going to be in our way of everything else, so just be a little more careful when navigating this one, closing that up so you can see what's going to happen here. I'm actually going to pull that down a little bit. What's going to happen is this one's going to come down, this one's going to come up, and then these two are going to combine together. So you can give those a squeeze, and then you have that done. Now your waist can still move on you a little bit, so it may take a little bit of lining up. Now this is a very soft connection up here. Once you get it here, it's not really going to move on you, but it's just a really soft connection. All right, and if it hasn't already done so just in the handling, go ahead and take Starscream's head, push that head down, and that's about as good as you get out of that head. All right, so now we're going to turn our attention to those arms. So these arms are on sliders in here, so you can see that metal rod, and you have this tab right here that's going to align to this little area right there, and in order to get it there you have to pull this arm out, and then you're going to bring this arm down in this type of fashion and then push it down like that. So then you end up with power glide type pylons, if you will, if you guys remember the G1 power glide. So you're going to do the same thing over here, and you're going to slide that over, and then you're going to collapse this up. And like I said, everything's going to move on you, and that's fine. There you go. Get down. Get in there. Okay. So then once you get that locked in place, everything pretty much stays where it should. This is not my favorite design by any means, but there you have Starscream in his jet mode. Now before we throw Starscream on the turntable and get all happy with the blast effect and accessories celebration, let's take a look at his details right now, and we'll bring him in for that close-up, and we're just going to start up here with that cockpit, which we've pretty much already seen in that bot mode. And then you've got these little winglets right here looking pretty good, and then coming down to the wings. This all looks pretty decent right here. Like I said earlier, he does have those big power glide style pylons. I do like what they've done here with, it looks like some additional intake and then some intake right there. That looks pretty good. And then coming back here to the mess that is his legs. This is not perfect. It's big and chunky and bulky. It's not the worst I've ever seen for a Decepticon jet mode, but still, one of these days they're going to get it right. It's just not this time. And then you've got the little fins back here. Pretty good. And then the wings over here. And there he is from the top. There he is from the bottom. All right, and you can see the one thing that they did right, not the one thing, I don't want to make it sound that bad, but one of the things that they did right was you have your flight stand port right there. So that makes it nice and fun and easy. And then you've got plenty of spots for some accessories in this mode as well. And then one of the cool things that you can do, up to you, this is the same as the bot mode, you can have these swung forward if you want to do it like that as well. So if you want to have some weapons go into the front, or if you want to have them sent to the back so you can use those as, I don't know, your afterburners, then that's totally up to you. So I think that was pretty cool. So let's go ahead. We're going to throw him on the turntable, get all the accessories on him. Not really much that you can do with the accessories. Kind of a sneak preview here. You know, you've got ports, you've got ports, you've got ports, you've got a port up here. So probably one of my favorites, just because of symmetry, is this. You know, so you can do something like that if you want, but we're going to bypass that for the next segment. And really what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take both of these swords and just put them on the wingtips so you can see how they look. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into that, see him with with both of his accessories and all of his blast effects. Well, here he is in all of his accessorized glory, and I think, yeah, okay, he could pull it off. In particular with these two right here, just looking like those afterburners. And then you've got a couple right up under here that you can use. It almost looks like a vertical takeoff and landing system. You know, I did find a way to use a blast effect on the tip of his sword. I don't know how effective it is. I don't know how convinced I am of it. But then you also have those ports on the sides of the pylons where I just threw a couple of effects in there just to see what it looked like. And don't even ask me what's going on here. I have no idea. But you can do things in this mode. The fact that he has the flight stand and you can put him on the flight stand, and have him showing off in this mode, I think is a good addition to the figure for sure. So, yeah, I mean, take it for what you will. Do what you want to do with this guy. I think that he does pull it off, and having that blast effect compatibility does go a long way for sure. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into those comparisons and see how he looks against some other alt modes out there. For our first alt mode comparison, here we see that Legacy Armada Starscream with what is left of my G1 Starscream, to give you a sense of size there. Moving on to our next comparison, here we see Transformers Prime Starscream. Our next alt mode comparison comes from the War for Cybertron line, and I bet you thought it was going to be the War for Cybertron Starscream, didn't you? Well, I decided to shake things up a little bit and bring in Ramjet, so there you go. And for our final comparison, here we see the Studio Series Starscream from the Bayverse films. That does it for the alt mode comparisons, so let's go ahead and get Starscream transformed back into his bot mode. So to get Starscream back into his bot mode, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and take those accessories off and set them off to the side. After you've done that, you're just going to disconnect those arm pylons, so just give those a nice pull, and they're going to come out, and leave them like that. That's fine for now. And do the same thing over here. Now you can turn your attention back here, and as you can see, it doesn't take much effort. Just bring those legs down, and then you're going to give those a little bit of a pull, and you're going to split those right there. And now you can open those legs up, so give those a pull. Make sure that you have this clear. Give those a pull either direction. And you should have legs that are looking like that. Now, just turn your legs so the fins are facing forward. Don't be surprised if my leg pops off, because this leg has a tendency to do that on my copies. So, yay. All right, so swing those legs forward, and then swing those legs forward. Oh, it didn't pop off that time, but you can see there's nothing that secures that in there. So it could pop off at any given moment. All right, take those panels, fold those panels in on both sides, and then take your feet, pull your feet out. Don't forget your heel spur. So you've got a little ridge back there that you can use. Do the same thing over here. And then you have those legs all done. So now you can move on to the rest of the body. So take those little fins right there. Just bring those in a little bit, not all the way, but just a little bit. And then take this assembly right here, this waist assembly, and you're going to bring this down. As you bring this down, it's going to pop his head up, so he's going to play a little peekaboo with you. So you're going to bring that down, and then boom, that head comes up, and you can see it right there. So once you have this right here, it's a little bit floppy, but we're going to rectify that when we take this tab and put it in that slot right there. So bring this down. Now, it looks like with these slots right there, it looks like you could fold these in and put them in, but they don't line up, so don't try that. And then bring this down and just line up that slot and that tab and give that a push. And now he's nice and stiff in the center part of that body, so he's going to hold together just fine. All right, and then you can do what you want with these back here. Leave them like this or bring them down. Up to you. I'm going to bring them down for now. And then I'm going to take these wings. I'm going to flip these wings and give them a little bit of an angle. And then I'm going to come over here to these arms. There's a little bit we have to do with these arms. So you're going to take this slider right there. You're going to push that arm assembly in. Then you're going to open this panel up right there. And you're going to flip those hands out. So you've got that little ridge right there that you can grab. Pop those open. Close those up. And then you can just do this. Give those arms whatever pose you want. Do the same thing over here. Make sure that your little slider is pushed in. And then open this panel up right here. Flip those hands out. Close that up. Bring those back down. Give him a nice angle, whatever you want him to look like. And that is it. You have Starscream back in his bot mode. For our first bot mode comparison, here we see the Legacy Armada Starscream next to my original G1 Starscream, or at least what's left of him. For our next bot mode comparison, here we see Starscream as he was from the Transformers Prime animated series. And to this day, this is probably still one of my favorite bot mode Starscreams. He's just lean and mean and sinister and cunning, and I love the way this figure looks. Next up is our representative from the War for Cybertron line, and no, it's not Starscream, and it's not even Ramjet. I decided I would go with another Seeker, so this is the War for Cybertron Earthrise Thrust. And for our final bot mode comparison, this is the Studio Series 21 Starscream from the Bayverse films. That's it for comparisons. Let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. So there we have the Transformers Legacy Armada Universe Voyager-class Starscream. And albeit he's a fine figure, I suppose, I found him a little underwhelming. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time giving my editorial on it, but let's jump in with the overall looks. This is one of his stronger qualities. The figure looks okay. You know, I like him in his bot mode. The alt mode is growing on me as well. But there's just something about him that just kind of feels a little phoned in. I'm not getting excited looking at this figure. He doesn't have the greatest of shelf presence. So he's just kind of blah. He's okay. There's not really anything wrong, but there's nothing here that's exciting when it comes to the overall looks of the figure. I guess one question is, for me, is where is the sneering Starscream face? You know, this Starscream just looks kind of stoic and serious, maybe a bit on the angry side, but not sneering. So that's kind of disappointing. One positive area that I will say is I do very much appreciate that the time was taken to put panels on the hollow areas, so the backs of the legs, the undersides of the arms, that kind of stuff, so that way it's not hugely obvious that we have those hollow areas right there. So I do appreciate that. So overall, on aesthetics, I'm going to give Starscream 8 out of 10 here. Moving on to the articulation, same thing as the aesthetics. The articulation overall is good. It's nothing super exciting, but it's adequate. It's done well. You're going to be able to get him into most any pose that you want to. He does have some limitations in his waist, so that waist rotation only goes a few degrees before you start running into things with that cockpit. And his ankles only have a few degrees of ankle tilt in and out. So that may be slightly limiting, but it's not a deal breaker at all. I will say that the added bonus of being able to pose those wings and to bring this backpack thing forward, whatever you want to call it, to put him in different modes, that's really cool. I do very much like that. So that gives an added level of overall play for the figure. So I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 for articulation. Moving on to the accessories. Yeah, I would say this is probably my most disappointing part of the figure. It is underwhelming as far as the accessories go for me. I will openly admit that I don't know a lot about the Armada Starscream mythology, so I'm not sure if these are the accessories that he had in that mythology or not, but I'm feeling kind of let down here with the blue-edged sword and then the other thing that kind of sort of looks like a sword. Just not a whole lot that you can do with them here. They don't excite me a whole lot, and I think for a Voyager price point, these are really a letdown. Just not the biggest fan, and I'm sure there are those out there who are going to disagree with me, and that's okay, but just for me personally, I'm not feeling it. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 on accessories. Moving to overall quality, again, this is kind of a sore spot for me as well, so I'm going to combine design and quality here. Talk about the design questions that I have first. Just in the transformation of those arms, up here in the shoulder area, it's a bit of a, I don't know, it makes the arms feel loose. There's some slop there, but it's because of that metal slide that you have to use. If you go back and look at the transformation, there's a metal slide up there where you fold the arms up for alt mode and then you bring them back out for the bot mode. Just by the design, the arms have some slop and some play in there. It makes them feel loose, but they're not. But it's still not pleasant, if that makes sense. Additionally, the legs, or the right leg on mine falls off pretty much at any given point whenever I twist it. And that's simply due to the fact that the design that they used here, where you've got that press fit of those type of mushroom kind of looks right up in here. You'll see as it comes back around, you just press fit the leg into the hips, and that right leg, it doesn't want to stay. So whenever I twist it, it pops off. So I'm not a fan of that design. I would have liked to have seen him do something a little bit different there. Now, for the actual quality issues that I have, the forward and the back kick on the legs are loose. Splits are fine, but kicking that leg, those legs forward, kicking them back, they're very loose. I could see that being a hindrance to posing. Hopefully it is just my copy, but I doubt that it is. Additionally, the legs don't want to quote-unquote snap in place in the alt mode. So going back to the transformation, I want to do a little bit of detail there. You take these legs, fold them in on themselves, and then you just tuck them up underneath the plane mode. And there's nothing really there that holds them in place. So as you play with the figure and manhandle the figure, it's super easy for those legs to kind of separate from the rest of the plane. And that's kind of disappointing. So I'm not the biggest fan of some of the quality issues here. Everything else is fine. He came with the accessories he was supposed to. Transforms the way he's supposed to. Paint looks all right. You know, again, not very exciting, but it's okay. But I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 for overall quality. So that brings us to our final bullet, which is overall value. Yeah, this one hurt a little bit. I'm going to be straight in saying that I picked this figure up from a local Target for $33 US. And looking back at it, I really don't think that this figure is worth $33. The value, it's hard for me to find the value there with this figure, just to put it that way. I think he's a little too meh, and the accessories aren't the greatest, and he has some quality issues. And for that $33 US, I just feel like he's not worth it. So I'm going to be a little generous here because this is a new mold. This is something that I've never seen before. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 for overall value. So that brings us to our grand total out of a possible 50 points. Armada Universe Starscream gets 37 out of 50, which puts him at 74%. So I'm going to leave this guy up to you. This is not a recommend from me. He's not a bad figure by any means. He's just not exciting, and I don't think that this is the best release that we've seen from Hasbro and Takara. I think that they can do better, and I think there's just a level of disappointment here. Sorry if it's in my voice, but it is a level of disappointment. I like some things on this figure, but overall, I don't think I would buy this figure again. So, with that being said, that's going to wrap the review up. I hope you guys got some good information. I hope you got some entertainment out of it, and I wasn't a complete Eeyore downer the whole time. So, if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment if you feel like it, and one favor to ask, if you know of anyone who would like this video or this channel or the things that we do here, please share this information with them, share the channel, share the video with them. We'd love to see the base grow on that. So with that, that's going to wrap it up. Until we see you guys in the next review, take care.